So guys, I've been tinkering around with my Ducati 350 Scrambler this morning. The rear brake wasn't working, the sensors were gunked up, and the two seals in the petcocks had failed, and I needed to strip all them down and get it running again. And while I was doing that, it did cross my mind why we have this affinity with classic bikes. Now, this bike is from 1975. And I was born in 1962, so when I was a teenager and we were riding around on our FS1Es, this sort of bike was the bike that was what everyone aspired to get. It was around the time where Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki and Suzuki were predominantly entering the British market. And I'm going to walk down to our other house, and I'll have a quick walk around this first. We'll turn it off. I'll turn the fuel off soon as I've got everything now I want it. I'll get this side turned off as well. Yeah, so been tinkering around with this morning. These two petcocks here needed stripping right down. Inside this part here there's a rubber seal with three little holes that allows you to go reserve on and off. And the rubber seals were leaking, and even though this Exicon part here is threaded, you couldn't put Teflon around it because there's a weep hole at the bottom just in case of emergency, and it does start to leak, which it was doing on both sides. And considering we don't have E10 fuel here in Spain, which is a known culprit for killing rubbers and mesh things, it's quite surprising. It has been stood for a while, so probably one of the reasons. Anyway, I'm going to walk down to the house. I'm going to get the other bike out, this Super Meteor 650. And I'm going to give my thoughts and views on why we're drawn to classic bikes from the 70s and even further back. Some of the Royal Enfields, the classic design harks back to the 50s and 60s, and I'll go through my rationale on this. Hi guys, and a very warm welcome back to the channel. Following on from the bit of video I shot with the Ducati 350 Scrambler up at our other house just before, walking down here and getting the Super Meteor out. Yeah, thoughts on where we are with classics and why we buy classics. And now, like I said earlier on in the video up at our other house, I'm a child of the 60s, and in the 70s we were all riding around on our 50cc mopeds before getting to 17, and then we were allowed to jump on to a 250. And lots of them 250s were Japanese bikes, Yamaha RD 250s, very, very quick bikes for the time. Considering you were riding around on L plates on a 250 machine, it seems that it's quite a small capacity in this day and age, but going back then, a lot of the 250s, especially the two-strokes, if you pushed them, you could get near enough 100 mile an hour out of them, especially on a motorway, and they were extremely fast two-stroke bikes at the time. So, the current market for Royal Enfield. No doubt in my mind that Royal Enfield are producing some of the most premium bikes on the bike market worldwide at the moment, and this Super Meteor in front of us being a prime example of that. The fit and finish on this bike is superb. It's holding up really well. The engine is a tried and tested engine. The engineering on this particular bike with Aris Engineering and the combined engineering of ex-Triumph engineers who went over to it for Royal Enfield development in the UK when they were developing this engine, and the chassis Aris Racing is superb. I think my initial thoughts many years ago, going back to 2016, I saw the 500 Classic, and it was like something shiny to a magpie, if you like. I'd always had bigger bikes in the past, and I'll talk about the difference about riding smaller bikes, especially if you own bigger bikes or you've had bigger bikes in the past. When I saw the 500 Classic, I really, really liked it, and it didn't really, how can I put this? It didn't match any of my childhood expectations, because I wasn't a big fan of 1950s bikes when I was 16, 17. I wanted modern bikes. I remember seeing I think it was called a Honda Bentley before I bought my Yamaha RD, my big, well, big at the time, and that was a 200cc Honda Bentley, and that was on a cruiser style design, and that was quite appealing, and in a strange sort of way, because the cruiser market has always been mainly dominated by American bikes and then later copied by the Japanese, with some amazing vehicles, don't get me wrong. They just haven't got the soul and the the essence that original bikes have got, Harley Davidsons and Indians, etc. So what draws us to retro bikes, and where is the market? I think the market now worldwide is totally different. I think the market for Royal Enfields in India is very different from the market in Europe, in as much as what we like in Europe, or what a certain demographic of people like in Europe, they don't like in India, and vice versa. And the sales figures for Royal Enfield recently have been phenomenal. For the last quarter, they've had record sales. And I would put that down to the home market more than the European or the American market. And why I say that is because the Indian market for bikes is huge. And I would think that the bikes they're selling on the Indian market are not so much the modern classics that Royal Enfield are putting out, although they will be selling them. I would think the bikes they're going to be selling in bulk on the Indian market are going to be the 450 range, the Gorilla, and the new Himalayan. I think in India they're flying off the shelves as fast as they can get them out there, purely because the Indians have had retro bikes for many, many years, right back to the 50s, not changing much for the Bullet line and the Classic line. Even when the unit construction engine came out for the 500 Classic, the overall look was very similar to the original Classic, albeit with a different engine and a combined unit instead of an engine and a separate gearbox. So the bikes that have come out recently, do I like them? Do I not like them? I don't like the shotgun. I think that's aimed at a niche market, a rat pack cruiser street cred section of society, maybe for a younger market that don't really see anything that they can recognise in the true classic design of the Royal Enfields, in the classic design, the 350 Classic and the 500 Classic has passed, and the old Bullets, etc. I think the younger generation are going for a different style, and they want this almost custom made. When you watch a lot of these reality TV shows from the States and a lot of places that are doing these custom builds on bikes, you see a lot of bikes where they take something like a Royal Enfield like this and they customize it and you get an amazing looking bike after. And I think the concept for the shotgun, the original concept I saw was from a bike builder who'd built this particular bike. Royal Enfield took it on board and created the shotgun, maybe for the American market to some extent and the UK market. It doesn't appeal to everybody. The good thing about the shotgun for me is the mid-mounted pegs. This bike, in my opinion, to be true to its original concept of the Super Meteor of the late 60s, 70s, would have been a more, maybe not totally mid-mounted, but more in line with the case of the engine as opposed to further back. The reason I say that is it's not an uncomfortable ride to ride this particular bike, but with the short travel suspension on the rear end, if you hit any bumps or divots on this, unlike any other bike, you cannot get your weight off the saddle. Your feet are so far forward that the only way you can get your weight off the saddle is to literally use the bars and try and heave yourself forward, which is not practical. It's not doable. Looking at the rear pegs, I suppose you could put your feet on the rear pegs and stand up, and again, that's not practical. We need something in the middle, and I think that's going to come. And I've said in the past that when that does come, I could order parts off a shotgun, I could order parts off the new Classic if I could get hold of them and swap everything over. It'd be a costly affair, but I think there's going to be some sort of package that's going to come from Hitchcock's or whoever in the very near future to change this over, because the seating position and everything about the bike, the way it sits and everything, it's more like a roadster than a cruiser style. It's not raked forward. The rake on the front of the bike is very shallow, so it turns in well into the corners. It's planted well on the road, and it really does suit its stance as a road bike and a cruiser if you really wanted it as a cruiser. Now, going on to the new bikes that have come out, the Classic 650. I've been waiting for the Classic 650 to be launched because I like my 500 Classic so much, and the reason I got rid of the 500 Classic is I do a mixture of countryside riding and motorway riding, and it just wasn't up to the job going down the motorway. It was gutless, really, to be honest. Having said that, I did have 140 kph out of it a few times. Whether it was actually doing that or not, I don't know, but you were actually wringing its neck. With this particular bike with a 650 engine is quite capable of showing a stated speed of at least 170 kph, 165, 170 is possible without problem. Whether it's actually doing that again on GPS, I don't actually know. So the 650 Classic, the new 650 Classic, I think, apart from the chrome version, the chrome and black, the rest of them just look like, I don't know, they just look cartoonish and something that would be made for a tacky market, i.e. the Japanese, when they brought out their cruisers, they never had the soul. They were reliable, they did the job, but they never quite appealed to true aficionados of that style of bike. And I think the Classic now, okay, it's got all the shiny bits on it, it's got everything about it, but it's a big heavy bike, same as this, 240 kilo plus. And what I would say is reverting to the standard forks on the front and normal shocks on the back. I just think it's going backwards. I mean, when I first saw this, it never appeared to me to be a cruiser. When I saw it, I thought, wow, they're really moving forward with a design, Royal Enfield, that is steeped in their heritage from their past. You can see the design, the shape of the chassis, the frame, this side panel, everything about it harks back to Royal Enfields of the past. But then they brought it into the modern age, creating a modern classic that was still true to its base. So you've got an air-cooled engine, okay, we've got an oil cooler on the front, and this is probably the best twin-cylinder air-cooled engine on the market, without a shadow of a doubt. It's so smooth, the engine's silky smooth, the gearbox is silky smooth, and it's a dream of a bike. So for me, I don't like the shotgun. I think it's a down-dressed version of this. I don't like the 650 Classic because I just think it looks gorish or garish or whatever you want to put it on. Now, I am biased because I own this bike, but as you know, in the past, I've jumped from bike to bike. I've had quite a few bikes and I've swapped and changed them, but this is going nowhere, not anytime soon. It's such a nice bike to ride. I've got it set on the hardest setting on the suspension at the back, and I'm about 80 kilos, and it's perfect. The reason it's perfect, it is quite hard, but you don't feel any of the bumps. You don't bottom out. The problem with this bike is it bottoms out on the back end very, very easily on any other setting except the hardest on the setting on the bottom of the shocks. So hardest setting for me works perfect. It's the same with my wife on the back. It's not as comfortable as the Moto Guzzi or the Vosges 900 DSX, but it's a superb bike. Now, people buy these, especially in the UK, and for some reason they buy them, they keep them 6 months, and you see them all over the for sales pages in the UK for a real knockdown bargain of a price. So they've paid something like, I don't know, 7 grand, nearly 7 grand for this bike in the UK in sterling. They keep it 6 months. They've probably got 1,000 mile on the clock because they don't do mileage in the UK. It's always raining. As you can see, the weather's typically autumnal here, but it's not normal for Spain at all. We've still got about 20 degrees today. So they don't do a large mileage, and they sell the bike. And the reason they sell the bike is predominantly they're younger buyers who've bought the bike, and it's not a pocket rocket. It's a heavy bike, and they don't see any advantage to having this style of bike over, say, a modern Honda, Yamaha or whatever. Now, at the beginning of this video, I was saying, in this particular section of the video, I was saying to those of you who've had big bikes, and I've got the Vosges over there, and I've got the 1100 Moto Guzzi there. When you jump off those bikes and jump onto this bike, immediately you're struck by the ease of riding this bike. And okay, it's only 47, 48 brake horsepower, 650, air-cooled twin, but it's capable. It's fast enough for what you want. It will go if you open the accelerator. You can scoot along on the motorway at motorway speeds, 120, 140 kph, no problem. It does it with ease. But the main thing is the grin factor and the fact that you can ride this, unlike the classic 500, you can ride this anywhere. You can go on a motorway, you can get some luggage on the back, you can go on a bit of a journey on it, and you can use it. So for me, every time I jump on it, I'm just wowed by how smooth the engine is, for one, how smooth the gear change is, how light the clutch is, and how nice it is to ride. Now, if you've not had an experience of a bigger bike, and knowing on a bigger bike that you've got to be totally aware all the time of the weight, the power, stopping at junctions, you've got to have the confidence to take a pillion on the back. Unless you've had that opportunity to experience that, and obviously you need a full license and you'll need a bit of experience to jump on a big bike like that. But if you're young and you've had the experience of a bigger bike and then you come on to something like this afterwards, you'll realise why these types of bikes are so popular. By popular, I mean, again, in a demographic of users that are going to use this bike. So let's get back to sales figures in the UK. It appears to me, when I had the 500 Classic, when I rode it around and rode around the villages here in Spain and some of the towns, if I rode into some of the towns and villages, immediately I'd park the bike and within seconds I'd be chatting to someone who wanted to know about the bike. Now, 99.9% of the people who came over and chatted to me about the bike were pensioners, because they see the bike and they see something from their past in the 500 Classic. No young people came over to ask me about it at all. So that is it in a nutshell, guys. You'll find in the UK, you've got a lot of 1960s, late 50s bike riders who are in the 60s, maybe early 70s, who are riding classic bikes, because it brings a bit of what they remember from their past back to them and they get a sense of nostalgia from it. But it doesn't appeal to all the younger riders. The younger riders now, apart from the ones with an A2 license that might be buying the Gorilla, like I've said, the 450 Himalayan, or even the Classic 350 or the Hunter, they're going to be buying them out of a need to buy a bike that's reasonably well priced, reasonably good on fuel, and will satisfy their insurance needs and the particular license they hold. So outside of India, I would think the huge sales that Royal Enfield is seeing are based purely on the home market. The rest of the world, it's a niche market, to be honest. You know, they are selling in every country, but they're not selling in massive numbers. You're not talking hundreds of thousands. You're talking 1,000, 2,000, you know, in each country, in each dealership. I know the dealership that I got this from in Murcia, they sell these bikes and they have a page on Facebook, and every time someone buys a Royal Enfield right across the range, from Himalayan to Hunter to 450 Gorilla up to the 650 Twins, they post a picture on Facebook. Now, I follow that page, and I would say in the year they've probably sold 60, 70 bikes in the year. Now, okay, that will add up if you go across all the concession areas that we have here in Spain selling them, but it's not a vast number of bikes. So for me, this bike is the perfect mixture of what Royal Enfield were all about in the past. It's been brought forward into the modern era. The components on it are all better. The build quality is better, notably better than my 500 Classic was years ago. I mean, there was overspray on that. If you look at my early videos, there's a lot of things on that. But to put the Showa forks on it, the Showa suspension, the chassis on it is superb. The way the chassis is finished with this powder coating, I cannot say enough good things about the bike. I just love the bike to bits. Now, I'll do a quick walk around the bike. I've done this before, and you can have a look around it, and we'll sort of wrap it up there. But yeah, I don't know where Royal Enfield's going. I think they'll continue to be successful, no doubt. They're up with the Triumph and all the other manufacturers now with the standard that they're putting out there. But they're certainly milking this 650 engine in a range of bikes, and why not? It's a superb bike. The 650 Bear, again, I don't know. It's not a scrambler. It's too heavy to be a scrambler. 240 kilos for a scrambler is just crazy. And the suspension travel on it is too low. A Screet rod scrambler, maybe. I mean, a lot of the Ducati scramblers, the smaller ones, really aren't off-road scramblers. So same again with the Royal Enfield Bear 650. Again, for me, do I like it? Not really. It's a bit gaudy. I have heard other YouTubers say it's the bike that this should have been, and I disagree. This is the bike it should have been. It is. This took far more development and thinking about than any of the iterations that have come after. The 650 Bear, all the rest of them have been much lesser of a design and development than this bike was. This bike was thoroughly thought through, and it's a superb bike, guys. So let's have a quick mooch around the bike. I'll get the camera. So you can see we've got the post-type saddlebags on the back. Everything's in good condition. You can see that there's no bluing on the pipes on the front, although I don't ride it lightly. I do push it. The paint is still really nice. The wheels are okay because they're cast alloy wheels with a good powder coating on them, so they're easy to keep clean. They're just an ordinary black wheel. Everything on the bike though, the wells and everything about this is really nice quality. The engine, the bodywork, the paintwork, the finish on it. And I got it in August last year, so August, September, we're about 15, no, maybe 16 months in with this bike. Put the bags on the back. I wanted them close fitting, as I've said to you before, so we've got the close fitting saddlebags on the back. These seat covers, I've done a video on them. Really pleased with these leather diamond stitch seat covers. They're really comfortable. They really suit the bike. So yeah, all in all, I think that without a shadow of a doubt, in my mind anyway, and like I said before, it's a biased review. I own the bike, and if I owned one of the others, I may have been raving about it if I'd bought it, but it's a superb bike, guys. This, like I say, once we get the option, and the option will come, no doubt in my mind. I think that should be over behind there, maybe. No doubt in my mind we'll get the option to get rid of all this bulky trellis work on the front, and this must weigh a ton. I mean, it's bolted onto the frame there, bolted down below. It takes the foot brake, the footrest, and the pump for the hydraulic system for the rear brake, and all this can be moved. Even the reservoir could be moved to a different location further back here or whatever. So it's definitely doable to take all this off and have it further back mounted somewhere around here on these mid-mounted sections. And for me, I think that will definitely change the bike for the better, aesthetically and for riding as well. So guys, I'm going to wind it up here. So you got my thoughts. I'm not keen on the new generations of the Bear or the Classic 650 or even the Shotgun. I mean, when the Shotgun came out, it is a bit of a cruiser, custom bobber, shopped made bike, but for me, I'm still really happy with the 650 Super Meteor, and I'll be keeping this bike and riding it and enjoying it. So thanks for joining me again, guys. You can see we're on a very overcast day, looking to be in the mid-20s by midweek and some sunshine again. So you may have seen on the news that we've had terrible torrential rain, and you may have seen my sad video about the black cat that used to visit, and you can see his bowl still down there. We've not got around to doing things, but he was a communal cat that we all shared, if you like. But he was very friendly and always greeted me, and I always fed him, and very sad that he passed away last week. So life goes on, and we enjoy our motorbiking. Even when it's like this in Spain, it's great to get out and about and enjoy the ride. So I hope you're enjoying your bikes, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the new Royal Enfield range. There's nothing really bad in any of the range, it's personal preference, but for my thoughts, you know, obviously, as you can see from what I've been talking about, this is the bike I bought and this is the bike I like, and I've got no intentions of getting rid of it. So ride safe and peace out, guys. Catch you in the next video.